All right, we are live. Welcome to Love in the Time of Hydra.
Oh my gosh, we're here? We're doing it? This
Happening.
is our first episode? Wow. Should I let the whole song play?
Episode for 7 years.
Are we waiting for this music to end? There it is. Okay. Hello and welcome to Love in the Time of Hydra, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. 10th anniversary podcast. On this day, 10 years ago, Tuesday, September 24th, a lot was happening in these United States. The leading movie at the domestic box office was Denis Villeneuve's Prisoners, while an actor you may have heard of named Clark Gregg could also be seen on the big screen as Leonardo in Much Ado About Nothing. The number one song was Wrecking Ball by Miley Cyrus, and Burger King had just introduced Satisfries. But most importantly, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. aired its very first episode on ABC at 8/7 Central. Hello, I'm Jamie Jirak, and I'm here with my co-host, boyfriend, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. novice, Tony Pauletto. Hello, Tony.
Hello. I'm really excited to be here. What the hell are Satisfries? I don't remember what those were.
They only lasted a year. It was after First Lady Michelle Obama called on food companies to do like healthier options. So they were like healthier fries. They did not last.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. lasted a lot longer.
I could make the whole show about this, but I am excited to talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Me too. And first, I want to know, so on September 24th, 2013, exactly 10 years ago to this moment, I was in Chicago watching the pilot of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. What were you doing, Tony?
I was probably in post-production on I shot a teaser for a zombie movie that I wanted to make. We shot like basically a fake trailer for a movie to try and get it made. It didn't get made, but we were working on it because I know I was shot it the month before that. So I was probably just looking at various edits of like a 2.5 minute thing and trying to get the right nasty zombie noises out of background actors.
Wow. So you were not watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
No, I was not watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I didn't care to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when it was coming out. And we can talk more about that when it's time to talk more about that.
Yeah. Well, we've got a lot. First of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone who is joining us live on Twitch and YouTube for our first show. That's really special that you guys are diving in right at the beginning with us. So before we get into, we have so much to talk about today. There's so much to talk about. But I do want to remind everybody that we're trying to keep this spoiler free for the future. Tony is going to attempt to spend the next 7 years not knowing what's going to happen. So if you're going to talk future spoilers in the comments, tag your spoilers. Please write spoiler alert first. You know, if you're talking about future plot points, actors, characters, certain names, anything like that. And we do have our producer Maria, who will be sending a warning to anyone who does spoilers. She'll probably delete your comment. If it's a malicious spoiler, like we're doing this just to tick us off, then she's gonna boot you, which is a great moment to, I think, introduce her. Please give a warm welcome to our wonderful producer, Maria Spertolozzi.
Oh, very good. Thanks, Jamie. Hello, guys.
Hello. Welcome.
Yes.
Thank you
I'm
so
the
much
voice
for being
behind
here.
the scenes. You're welcome.
Yes.
I'm happy to be here.
And the warden of misbehaving commenters.
Yes, yeah. Monitoring this chat, which so far everyone's being lovely and just saying hi to us. And I'm excited. I'm so excited.
Yes, before we get Maria backstage again, I want to know, Maria, what is your Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. personal history? Have you tell the audience? Have you watched the show?
Yes.
Are you watching it now? Let us know.
So in 2013 September, I was in my college apartment, and I believe all my roommates and I did watch the pilot episode together. And I remember watching a few episodes, and then I fell off because Mad Men was also happening, and that just sucked all my attention at that time.
That's fair.
Yeah. But I'm watching it now. I am 6 episodes in, so I'm still very fresh.
Okay, so you're getting ahead of it. You're not doing it the Tony route.
No, I'm binging. I'm putting this on and
perfect.
And letting it play.
I do want to know to our listeners, if there are any first-time watchers, I want to know if you plan to go it hard with Tony and try to watch it for the first time in the 10th anniversary, or if you're gonna go faster and leave Tony in the lurch.
Yeah, please.
So
I
let us
would
know.
love to have compatriots in this experience, and because I'm going to be, I know we're going to have a lot of guests and a lot of listeners who adore this show. I would love to have somebody in the same lane as me, as many as I can, so that I have some people on my team of fresh viewing.
Yes, amazing. Well, Maria, you are our keeper. If it's like, Jamie, stop talking so much, that's your cue to come in and tell us
along all the juicy info from the comments.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. All right, so before we start talking about this episode, Tony, you did not watch this the day it aired, but what is your history with this show?
So, I mean, I love, like, since Iron Man came out, and to this day, I'm a big fan of Marvel and of the cinematic universe. I got really into it. It was something that I always wanted to see, was this culmination, this crossover of all these different cool characters. So it satisfied me, like the kid in me of actually, I call it dumping out the toy box, is like the best expression for it, is like, you dump out the toy box and this guy can fight with this guy and this guy can fight with this guy. And it made me really, really excited and happy. The whole phase one leading up to the Avengers was so, I was so ecstatic for everything. And so this show came along, and I don't have much experience with long form television. I can say that you and I, Jamie, very recently completed Buffy and Angel, my first time, your 112th time, I think, something like that.
I will tell the audience there are only two shows on Earth I love more than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and that's Buffy and Angel. And
yes.
and I actually call Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Buffy and Angel's little cousin, because it like kind of literally is. We'll talk about that in a bit. But but I think it was important for us to do that first, because you have never experienced long form TV, and we didn't talk about the episode after we watched it, but I did ask you one question, and is that, did watching Buffy and Angel help you watch this episode, because you tried to watch this in the past?
I did. I tried. So, I mean, I think I honestly DVR'd it, right? I had a mild interest. I'm like, oh, cool, extend the universe, S.H.I.E.L.D. I know about S.H.I.E.L.D. Let's check it out. And I saw this like bunch of dudes I don't know, and they're doing stuff, and there's kind of superhero things going on, but it's got a lot less money behind it. And it was just like, I don't really like this. And I might have paused it with the intention of coming back and didn't. And then flash forward, I was like, you know what would be really cool? I'm really getting into the MCU now. There's so much cool stuff popping off. Maybe I'll watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm going to see everything. And I started Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. again, and I think I got exactly 30 minutes into it, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna go down this ride, because it wasn't doing anything for me. A lot of that has to do with the format that I was unfamiliar with. So now I'm locked in. Now I'm on the hook for a very long television show, and I'm excited, and I can say that I liked this first episode.
Oh, I love hearing that. I do want to address two comments. First, from Emily: how dare you love Buffy and Angel more than AOS? Love it. Listen, third favorite show of all time. Not too bad. Buffy was around a lot earlier, a lot sooner. I had more time to love it. Somebody asked, does that mean Tony's never watched Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones, or Succession? And I will say that Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones, I don't really consider long form in that way, because they're like, they're shorter seasons. They're not 22 episode seasons. But you have watched Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones.
I have watched Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones. I'm like way behind on Succession. I've watched TV. Maria mentioned Mad Men. I watched all of Mad Men. It's a different breed. I don't have the right vocabulary to qualify it, but network television like Buffy and Angel is certainly and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is certainly different than and then like the Sopranos, The Wire evolution, where TV became like really a hot commodity, and deep, dense, dramatic stuff popping off.
There's another question here that actually leads perfectly in what we're talking about next. Zachary is asking us, will you be watching the films in between the episodes where they tie into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? And yes, the question is yes. We actually, the first movie that released during Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was Thor the Dark World. So that's actually, we're going to do that on Patreon. We're going to test out those waters. You know, we've never done that before. We've never done this before. So we'll see how that works. But that's our goal. But all the Coulson movies leading up to this, we actually did watch this week just to get a little Coulson catch up. So real quick, before we dive into this episode, I do want to talk that this is actually the reason why we normally will have guests. We're going to have guests each week, but we didn't want to guest this week because we just had too much to talk about. We didn't want to overwhelm somebody in our first episode. But Tony and I watched this week. We watched Iron Man 2, Thor. We watched the Marvel one shots, The Consultant. A funny thing happened on the way to Thor's hammer, and we watched the Avengers. And it's fun to watch these movies, like really focusing on Coulson.
Yeah.
Have you done that before? Just like this is Coulson's time.
I've never watched. No, I've never watched the movies just to focus on Coulson. But he's always been such a delight. Like, he's such a bright spot. And when I was watching the first episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I was thinking how grateful I am that the powers that be and the creative teams acknowledged how good and how delightful he is as a character and as an actor, that they were like, let's just keep him in here in however many capacities we can. Like, let's just keep bringing in Coulson. And so I'm a Coulson fan for sure.
Yeah. He really, like, in those first two Iron Man movies, he doesn't have a lot of screen time, but it's just like every single second he speaks is just he just steals it. Clark Gregg is such a good actor. He's not just a comedic actor, he's a great dramatic actor, which you will learn over the course
you mentioned
of
Much Ado, like,
he's a great Leonardo. If you haven't watched that version of Much Ado About Nothing, I highly recommend it, folks. It's fun to see those folks doing that play. Also, I'm going to admit something that I know I'm going to get shit for. I'm like fully prepared to get flack because we are a lot of people know it is my literal job to talk about Marvel. But I had never seen those one shots before. I don't know. You had. I know. I'm so embarrassed. I feel like I've already failed.
I'm embarrassed for you.
I know. But it was especially a funny thing happened on the way to Thor's hammer was like getting to watch Coulson kick ass like that. Like, obviously, I feel like I'm a bit of I wanted to say I was a Coulson expert, but I didn't see one of his earliest things. But that one was so funny. And I also want to bring up the item 47, even though Coulson's not in that, because I'm like, freaking
Lizzie Kaplan.
Lizzie Kaplan, thank you. And
Titus Welliver.
Bradford. I'm like, I was like, couldn't believe they were in those. So I feel like I'm now officially caught up. And I feel good about that. But yeah, I'm really embarrassed that I had never seen those before. And they're on Disney Plus. If you're like me and love Marvel, but somehow have missed those 2 4-minute shorts, they're on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
All right. So is there anything else you want to say about those movies before we dive into the pilot episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
I really like Iron Man. Iron Man 2's super messy, but it's really funny, and it's got the same energy as the first one, and I like it despite its flaws. Sam Rockwell crushing. Bring back Sam Rockwell. Hashtag that, however the hell you want to spell it. But like, and Thor's fine. Thor's cool. Thor is like I really like what they were doing in Phase 1, where every movie had its own sort of style and aesthetic and tone, and it was cool and exciting, and you couldn't wait to see it all collide. So it was nice to revisit Thor again after a while and just be like, yeah, they took a pretty confident step into fantasy. And there's a lot of Coulson in there.
Yeah, I forget how much Kenneth Branagh like leans into the Dutch angles, and
that man loves a Dutch angle.
He loves them.
I think it's like 28% Dutch angles. Thor.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's a whole style, and I agree. I say this all the time, but like all I want for Armor Wars is the return of Sam Rockwell.
Please, I mean, if you're going to go and do Armor Wars and not bring Justin Hammer into Armor Wars, you're really messing up.
It's crazy. I mean, we were watching Iron Man 2 and cracking up because of how funny that whole movie is. Funny. I think it's one of the funniest MCU movies. It definitely has plot flaws, but in terms of entertainment, it is a very entertaining movie. So I think that's I think that movie gets some flack that it doesn't deserve, and some that it does.
Yeah.
And also, I do, before we get into the episode, I do also want to just say that The Avengers is Coulson's movie. I feel like he is the star of that movie. First of all, he opens the movie. Like that cool shot of him with the glasses. That's how the movie starts. He has multiple badass entrances. When he first shows up in the Stark Tower, that's a badass entrance. Yep. when he shows up with the gun to try to kill Loki, like that's so badass. Like everything he does in this movie is so cool, and he's definitely the heart of it. You cannot, like, no one can argue that.
The whole movie pivots on his death. Who knows? But like this whole movie pivots on his death, and Fury using that as a springboard to get the Avengers to get over themselves and come together and save New York. Like he's the fulcrum of the heart and the fulcrum of that movie.
Sometimes I feel guilty that I have a Loki tattoo because he he killed my boy.
Yeah, you're an asshole.
Whoops, sorry. But what's crazy is when Coulson was killed in Avengers, it only took 3 days for the hashtag Coulson Lives campaign to sweep the internet. Clark Gregg was even in on it. Yeah, fans wanted Coulson back. They did not like that Coulson died. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later when we talk about the history of the pilot. But a huge reason Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. exists is because the fans wanted more Coulson. That is why we have the show, is because everybody loves Coulson, and as they should. As they should.
Yeah, that I have completed all of my most immediate thoughts and feelings on the movies leading up to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Because you know what? That's not why we're here. We're here to talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. All right.
That's why we're here.
So hashtag Coulson Lives. That's right.
There it is. Tainted Crimson gets it.
Yeah. So first, just a quick synopsis of this episode. The episode was directed by Joss Whedon, written by him and Jed Whedon and Marissa Tancherone. As the hardcore fans know, Jed and Mo, they are the executive producers, the creators. They are the two people that steered this ship all 7 years. The fandom calls them Jedmo. So now you know what if I'm talking about Jedmo, I'm talking about Jed and Marissa Tancherone. They are a married couple. They are wonderful, lovely people who I have met, and they just seem like good people who created a really good working environment. And we have to address the elephant in the room, which is the fact that Joss Whedon directed this episode, and it has come to light that back in the Buffy days, he wasn't the best creative person to work with. He was a hard person to work with, and luckily for us, we don't have to talk about him ever again. He directed this episode, and his name is stamped on every single episode of this show. But after this episode, he's got really nothing to do with this show. He was filming Age of Ultron, and then Age of Ultron, it got a lot of people didn't like it. Those people are not me.
Or me.
And Age of Ultron is a frequent watched film in this household. But I think after that, he was just kind of washing his hands of Marvel for a while. So, we acknowledge that Joss is a little bit of a problematic person. But this is not his show. This is Jed Whedon's show and Marissa Tancherone's show. And actually, Kevin Tancherone, Marissa's brother, directed 16 episodes of this show, including the series finale. So this still is a family affair. And we are really, really lucky that Jedmo stuck around this whole time. Jeffrey Bell is also one of the executive producers. He wrote and directed the series finale of Angel, my favorite episode of television. So there's a lot of crossover. That's why I call Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. the little cousin of Buffy and Angel, because it literally is.
And we haven't even gotten into our boy Jay August.
Oh, he's coming. All right, so here we go. Here's what happens in this episode. So far, what we're thinking, Coulson's dead? What? Nope. If you're in level 7, you know that's not true. He's actually alive. Here, and turns out a lot of stuff have been happening since the Battle of New York. The world has changed. People know that aliens are real. Oh no. And we start off with this man, Mike Peterson, played by J. August Richard, star of Angel, who rescues a woman from a building. He's got superpowers. What? This interested party, Skye, witnesses it. And then that is how this all incites Coulson to create a new team. And so we have our players. We have Phil Coulson, who is played by Clark Gregg. We've got Skye, who is played by Chloe Bennett. Melinda May, Ming-Na Wen, Disney legend. We've got Grant Ward, played by Brett Dalton. Leo Fitz, Ian DeCastiger, and whoa, I mumbled my words. Gemma Simmons, played by Elizabeth Henstridge. And this episode, we got some special guest stars. We had Kobe Smulders as Maria Hill. That's a pretty cool get for this first episode. And then Ron Glass played the S.H.I.E.L.D. doctor. Ron Glass was a star of Firefly, another in that pool of people of cast. So we're getting a team together. Who knows? Will they work as a team? Will they all succeed? I don't know. I guess we'll have to keep
anticipated
watching.
zero conflict and infighting or sexual tension. I thought none of that would be there, but alas, all of it was.
And just a reminder to people in the comments to tag your spoilers. And so before we get like deep diving into the episode, I do want to hear, Tony, your first impression. You talked a little bit about it earlier, but just a little more deeper.
I can go deep on this. So
yeah.
I've seen, after the third attempt, I've watched the entire first episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and I liked it. Tell you what I liked. I like seeing J. August Richards in there right away. I did not know he was in it. I mean, I'd seen him before, but last time I saw this, I had not seen Angel. So he's here, and he's really good in this episode. He's doing some serious, like, heavy shit that's, like, even more heavy than anything he ever gets to in Angel. Like, he's given a lot to do. So that was really nice. I like the world it's setting up. I like Coulson so much, as I've already said. It was, I think my favorite thing about this was just the very obvious realization that, wow, we're going to be getting a lot of Coulson. And you always get Coulson in small doses, but getting him it's so much in this first episode was like, I'm really excited to just watch him crush at this character once a week. And I thought that this plot, the thing I liked so much was this movie starts with J. August Richards saving this woman from a burning building, and you're like, oh, he's a hero, and he's in secret, and as the episode plays out, all of those two characters actually have a relationship, and it's surprisingly sinister. The fact that they went from, oh, this is a victim of a burning building who was rescued, like, no, she's actually an instigator and a villain, and has made J. August Richard who he is, was like, that was pretty cool. That was a cool maneuver. I liked that.
Yeah. This was probably, I want to say, my 11th time watching this episode. I know I've watched the first 4 seasons at least 10 times. The later seasons a little less, just because they haven't been around as long. So I do want to say, my goal for the show is not to torture Tony with stuff he doesn't know. Like, I don't want to tease him, but I will say that I am wearing a t-shirt that is from the series finale. So I did a little trolling today to let you know that I am wearing this, but people in the comments are concerned for you. They're like so worried you're going to get spoiled. But guys, Tony's not reading the comments. We do
I'm not on the comments.
We do want you to write spoiler alert before you say anything, just because I'm hoping that other newcomers are joining in the chat. But don't worry about Tony. He's not an internet guy. As like
tell everybody, why don't you?
On Instagram, we want to keep it the same way in terms of tagging your spoilers and comments. Just, hashtag spoiler alert, spoiler. Because Tony will see the Instagram, but Twitter is a free for all. I would go crazy if I tried to police Twitter. I'm on Twitter. The podcast has a Twitter account. Go ham on talking about future. If you are like Tony and don't want spoilers, avoid Twitter, because there's no way. Oh, we got hashtag protect Tony. I love that. Get it trending. Thank you, Tess.
I feel so special. Thank you, Protector. Thanks, Tess.
I want to add, for me, for this pilot, what's really funny in retrospect is, now Marvel's my job. Talking about Marvel's my job. But in 2013, I was really a casual fan. And I did not tune in on September 24th, 2013, because of Coulson or because of Marvel. I tuned in because it was Joss Whedon. That's like, it's embarrassing now in retrospect to admit that, but that is the reason why I tuned in, is because Joss Whedon had like a new show with his name on it. And it's funny because I got a Mutant Enemy tattoo like months before that is like his production company, which I don't regret because you can't really tell what it is. No one would see it and be like, uh-oh, that guy is bad. It's subtle. But I remember right after the tattoo, the show was announced, and I was like, oh no, what if I hate this show that is now associated with this tattoo? Turns out, love the show, not a problem. And now there's probably never going to be another show associated with that again. So it all worked out for old Jamie.
Had you seen all the films leading up to the pilot at that point in time?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I own them all. I was, but I didn't, like, to give you an example, I saw the first Avengers once in theaters. By the time we get to Infinity War and Endgame, I'm seeing them both 5 times in theaters. Like,
Right.
I was still very much on it and seeing them as they came out. I was buying the Blu-rays, but I wasn't as crazy as I am now. And a part of my love, came from the show, came from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And it is now, we're about to deep dive into this episode. Thank you guys all for sticking around while we start catching up and learning about each other and learning about our histories. But real quick, we are going to take a 1-minute break. So this is your time to fill up your drinks, go to the restroom. We will be back in 1 minute. Shout out to Maria for testing that countdown feature.
Yeah.
Loved
Yeah.
it.
Wanted to make sure it worked, but
yeah,
also it gave everyone an idea of 30 seconds.
That was great. We're back. We are
We
back.
switched
Thank
sides.
you. Oh, hey, what's up? Thank you again to everybody who's watching us with us live. It is really, really cool again to see people with us on our very first episode. I mean,
Yeah, thank you so
hopefully
much.
in 7 years from now, there'll be like hundreds and thousands of you. That seems crazy. I don't know. I don't really know numbers and internets very well. But it makes me really, really excited. So we are now going to deep dive into the very first episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the pilot episode. First, I mean, we got to talk about all the MCU references. So I know that within the fandom, and there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of debate about whether or not this show is canon. And I will say this. We in the year 2023, we still don't know. We still do not know if this is within the main universe. But here's the thing: multiverses exists. This is still technically canon. Everything's canon. And in my head canon, seasons 1 through 5 are in the main universe, and then we have a Nexus event. That is my personal opinion that I'm throwing out now. But here's the thing: we are not living in September 24th, 2023. We are living in September 24th, 2013 right now. And at this point in time, this show is canon. This is absolutely happening in 2013 at this moment. There's no question about it. There's no debate. Marvel TV, it was a huge deal. This was before the Netflix show, everything. Right here, right now, at this moment in time, we're in canon, and we reference a lot of stuff, especially the Battle of New York. We got Maria Hill in there. We got the Chitauri neutral link. We've got an Erskine reference. I mean, like, all the Avengers are pretty much name dropped. It's pretty crazy.
They do the same thing. They do the same thing Daredevil did, which got really silly, where they're like, well, you got yourself a big green guy and a billionaire in a suit and some lightning man with a hammer. Like, for whatever reason, they just avoid saying names of people.
To be fair, Maria Hill does say Thor's name because she talks about his arms, and
arms.
Romanoff gets name dropped too because they say that Ward has some of the best espionage type skills. I'm paraphrasing since Romanoff.
But still, it's this funny thing that they do in both this and then when Netflix shows started popping off, they do, like, as opposed to saying characters' names, they just describe them, and we're like, ooh, Easter egg. And it's like, yeah, of course. I will say that I think I've heard a lot from you, Jamie, and from other people about this whole canon debate, and I am already frustrated about it, about the fact that it isn't that this is any kind of debate. The thing that really got me is that this episode revolves around the misuse of this fallen Chitauri tech and taking it and using it for your own means. And I'm like, that's the plot of Spider-Man Homecoming. Like, that's exactly what Michael Keaton, Adrian Toomes is doing. That's how the Vulture is created. And it's like, okay, so, I saw that movie in 2017 and I thought, oh, cool idea. And then now I'm walking backwards 4 years and I'm seeing it in the first episode. And I'm like, well, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did it first. And,
yeah, that a lot can be said, like, a lot of things can be said. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did it first.
I'm frustrated about it because it's such, like, all I mean is that in 2017, when they were making Spider-Man, it would have been pretty effortless for them to have mentioned something to the effect of, this isn't the first time some sinister organization has taken Chitauri tech and misappropriated it. But from what I understand, this show we're watching will be standing alone from the MCU for, entirely.
I want to shout out Tangent Crimson 7 for reminding me hashtag it's all connected. That was a big thing in the beginning. It was like, it's all connected. Like, that was totally like their whole deal. I also want to say that the chat's getting good at using hashtag spoiler alert. We love that. Thank you. So like, at this point, September 24th, 2013, this is we're in the MCU. We are dealing with things, and the whole thing about the show is that we're on the ground. We're dealing with, like, these threats that aren't Avenger level threats that this team, these people can deal with without calling in the big guns per se. And that I want to bring up, what's going on with Coulson? I mean, at this point, episode 1, last we saw, he died. He was dead. I would like to bring up one thing that's always bothered me is that Fury bloodied up those trading cards. In Coulson's locker. I would really like a moment where Coulson just, like, goes on a whole tangent about how he's pissed off that Fury tainted his cards.
Ruined his vintage set.
Yes, like, I know, grateful to be alive or whatever, but you're
grateful
ruined
that my bloody trading cards were the catalyst for saving mankind, I guess. But you fucked up my cards, man.
Yeah, exactly. So Coulson says in the beginning that he was dead for like 8 minutes and then or something, and then not 8 minutes, a certain amount.
Less than that. It was like 40 seconds or something.
40 seconds, and then in the 80 seconds, and then Maria Hill's like, no, it was 40 seconds. You keep
that's right. He keeps
doing it.
Bumping
You keep exaggerating, and he's like, well, when you get stabbed by Asgard's Mussolini, then you can exaggerate too. And then he says that he gets sent to Tahiti to kind of chill out, read his books, while the Avengers were finishing up their job. Basically, Ron Glass, the doctor, he says, Tahiti? He really doesn't know, does he? And then Maria Hill says, he can never know. So something's going on with Coulson. Yeah. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I'm sure you don't, Jamie.
Do you have any thoughts or predictions?
Well, first of all, I really like that because, I mean, it was impossible. I knew the show was out. The show did not hide that Agent Coulson was the star of the show and everything. So I was like, how are they going to answer that? And I heard rumblings, he's a clone or he's a robot or whatever. And I don't have any predictions, but one thing I did appreciate about this was that line from Maria Hill that just immediately made it a subject of intrigue, as opposed to saying, hey, he's alive, accept it, which whatever. But the fact that it is something that we're going to have to deal with, I don't expect that Mr. Coulson is going to go the rest of this show without having to come to face this thing he doesn't know about why he's still alive. I like that. It's dangerous. It's cool. I'm interested. Predictions? I don't know. I don't care. I'm not really good at. I'm really. I know this is going to be something that's asked of me a lot. Of like, who am I shipping, and what do I think is going to happen? And I'll try, but I kind of feel comfortable in the cradle of unknowing that I'm in right now.
Yeah, I like that. I don't really love predicting things either. Although I'm still going to ask you to do it.
Yeah, I know.
But because give the people what they want. And if everyone in the comments are like, no, I don't want to hear what Tony thinks is going to happen, then maybe I'll stop asking. But I really don't.
Hashtag don't protect Tony.
Then we've got these new characters. We've got a lot of people introduced, and I really love the way that they're introduced. And so, we'll just go down the line. We see Skye of the people. I'm just going to go through the 6 main people. We already talked a lot about Coulson. Of the main cast, the first person you see is Skye. She's filming, things. She's got her rising tide going on. What are your thoughts of Skye and the first impression?
My first impression is that Skye's fucking annoying. I don't really like her. That scene where she's in the diner being a total pain in the ass to J. August Richards. I was like, wow, I am not a Skye fan. I know it's early. And then she just keeps being proven to be less capable than she purports that she is. And I'm like, yeah, sounds about right. You're not great. And so I'm, I guess she's on the team now. Yeah, we'll see about Skye. But right now, I'm not a fan.
Okay, that's all right. I have thoughts and feelings that I'm gonna save until the Tony leaves the room segment.
The chat has a lot of feelings about this, Tony.
Oh, do they? Well, tell them I can't hear them.
Yes, we will talk about this more when Tony leaves the room at the end of the episode. I already wrote
you can explain it now. That at the end of every episode, we will sign off and I will say thank you to everybody involved in the podcast, and then I will leave the room. And then the podcast will continue in my absence for all you people who need to talk about spoilery things.
Yes. Exactly. So next, our next main player that we see is Ward. He's in Paris. He goes in this house apartment and to get the Neutral Link, and he has a really badass fight scene. I really dig this
good fight.
Hand-to-hand. You and I are both people who love a good hand-to-hand fight.
Love a good hand-to-hand fight. Big kung fu person.
Yes.
I love it.
And I really dig this intro for him. Not a team player. He's a little poop with knives sticking out of it, which is a really good joke.
Knives sticking out was good.
So what are your thoughts then now on Grant Ward?
Love the fight scene. That was cool. I think he's a chode, right? We can this first episode, I think we can safely say that that Ward is a chode. But however, we did get this moment that I really like where Coulson tricks him and injects him with the truth serum, and you get to see him. His veneer crumbles and he's just, he's a scared little boy, of course. Those Gramsci, those aggro chodes are usually scared little boys. So I like that this show gave me that right away of just being like, yes, we acknowledge that he's a tough guy and he has this tough persona, but it's false, it's flimsy. But I don't dislike Ward. I like that they gave me that moment. He seems like a very capable dude. I think he's gonna be I think he's gonna be helpful. I think Coulson's given him some lessons on compassion and patience and all these things, which is you can't have a better sensei than Agent Coulson. So I got hope. I got hope for Ward. And I'll just say I have hope for Skye as well, but she got on my nerves this one.
That's fair. Yeah, I don't think you're not throwing anybody out in episode 1. Like, Tony's
No,
not like,
no,
I
no.
refuse. And this is a good time to mention that my favorite character arc in the history of television is Wesley on Buffy and Angel, and I knew what was going to happen. Tony was going to come in hating his guts, and he was going to hate his guts for a while, and then by the end, he was going to love him, and that's exactly what happened. And it's fun to watch that. It's fun to be like, we'll see how you feel about this later.
Yeah, he
okay,
himself several times over.
Yes. So next we've got Melinda May, Ming-Na Wen. I just love Ming-Na Wen so much. Cool. I do want to say, I've met the cast, and we'll talk about this later, but Ming-Na Wen could not be more different from Melinda May. When it comes to all of these actors and characters, nobody is more different. That Ming is the bubbliest, sweetest, naughtiest, nerdiest, but Melinda May, she's real stoic. We don't know much about her yet, but she looks tough. And there's that moment where Ward is like, is that who I think it is? And then,
legendary.
And then Coulson's like, she's just here to drive the bus. And when we meet her, Coulson goes into, she's like stamping papers. She's like on the desk.
Which for me, from my perspective, is really funny because it's Ming-Na Wen, and I obviously haven't seen the show, but I have seen The Mandalorian, and she's a badass in that show. So when they show her there, and I'm like, yeah, sure, pencil pusher Ming-Na Wen, yeah, I'm real sure. And then she starts kicking some ass, and I'm like, of course, no kidding. I imagine there was, if I wasn't familiar with her, I could have been surprised that Melinda May was as badass as she was, but saw that one coming, and I liked it very much.
Brendan in the comments says Ming-Na Wen could kick me in the face, and I'd say thank you, and I'd say, you know what, same. I'm
really gonna go along with that as well. Yeah, me too.
So I would say of our 3 characters so far that we've talked about, you have more positive things for May to say about May.
Well, you started on. I really like Fitzsimmons. I want to put that out there. I think they're.
Well, we're gonna get there, Tony. We're gonna get to them.
Yeah. You started in the poopiest section, and we're
climbing out. I'm trying to go in order of
it's fair. It's fair. Maybe that's why I turned it off 30 minutes in, because the first 2 characters, I was like, fuck these guys.
Tony knows. I was like, Tony, you're allowed to say negative things, but you got to be careful. You can't be too much of a hater. We want the audience to come back.
I've said both times in both instances with Agent Ward and with Skye, I'm not giving up on them entirely. I'm holding out, and I hope they change my mind. I'm sure they will.
Great. All right. So then you said it, Fitzsimmons. We've got Leo Fitz. He's engineering. Gemma Simmons. She's biochem. They are a team. They are big old nerds.
Yes, they
and
are.
Your instinct was to enjoy them.
Oh, they're so cute. They're really fun. This episode, and we'll see if this carries on for the entirety of the show, but there's so much science babble. More than, you get these moments in the MCU where Stark and Banner are hanging out, and they're, especially Stark, anytime he's talking to Jarvis trying to figure out some tech puzzle, he's dropping words, and I'm like, oh, that sounds like real science kind of. It's like that on steroids in this episode. They are, the 2 of them, and the fact that they have, I just think it's really cute. The name Fitzsimmons is a name, and that they are one and the other, and that they speak over each other and in one voice at times. And I think it's a really cool idea for a character, and I really enjoy them. I like how giddy they are about what they do, and how neurotic they are about what they do. They feel very put upon. Obviously, in the climax of this episode, Coulson hardcore says it's on you to devise a way to not kill this guy and also not have him blow everybody up. And I really like Coulson for being like, it's on you. I was like, that's a hardcore thing to say to your team, but you did. And they pulled it off. And I really like that they pulled it off.
Yeah. He's like, don't tell me there's no way. These kids are fresh out of the academy. They're babies. Yeah. And, they're in, as they say, they're not even approved for field work. No. They have not been, but I want to shout out Octborn in the comments, because Octborn is also an AOS newcomer. I love to see I didn't know we have any newcomers in the comments, so I love that. But also they said, I immediately love Fitzsimmons, and I agree. I think that like it's hard. Like when you go out of the pilot, it's like, well, Coulson's still my favorite character because he's the one that I know. But I can tell you, my favorite, here's a non-spoiler alert. My favorite character of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. does not come into the show until season 5. So you will not meet my favorite character for 5 years. Now, until this character existed, Fitz was my favorite. I love Fitz deeply, and I love Fitzsimmons. So hearing you have so many positive things to say about Fitzsimmons really makes me happy. I got like chills.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. This is nice. Muzmil, I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Saying that when they first started watching, they were nervous that certain characters would overshadow others, but was pleasantly surprised they didn't. And I agreed. This is a great group show. Like, and they established that from the beginning. And like, and I think Emily in the comments said it's like it's the found family, and that's what I love. A lot of people know that I'm watching Star Wars Rebels for the first time. I only have 2 episodes left, but I love it because it gives me that vibe. It's that found family vibe, and I love that. And you can see the workings of like this team. You know that like who knows what they're going to go through together, but it's obvious that's what they're setting up.
You can tell that these are people who are in very short time are going to need each other. And that's cool. I already feel the support beams being built.
Yes, and so those are our 6 main cast. While I wish J. August Richards was a series regular, he sadly is not a series regular. But you did like him, and I will. And you know, what you praised his performance. And when this episode came out, I was looking into like how it was received. You know, getting ready for that. And the things it got praised for the most was Whedon's direction and J. August's performance. That was like the thing that really stood out. And you were right. Like he does get more to do in this pretty much than he did in 5 years of Angel.
The last season of Angel, he gets put in some pretty intense situations, and it becomes a very emotional, volatile character. But it's still not as emotional or volatile as he was in this pilot episode of a different show. Yeah.
So I want to bring up the 7th main character, if you will, the bus, the big old plane. It's so cool. It is I had to write this down because I didn't just have this memory. I will admit it. The XD 32315 Airborne Mobile Command Station were specialized Boeing C-17 Globemaster III airplane. So these were like basically ships that have been planes that had been around for a while, but kind of like they weren't as big once the helicarrier became a thing for Avengers. The bus, those weren't used as much, so that's kind of why they got this this plane. And what did you think about it as a set?
Well, when I saw the exterior of it, I was like, okay. But then we went inside, and I was like, this is pretty cool airplane. It's kind of got a retro vibe, and I like that it's sort of not necessarily a decommissioned military vehicle, but it's an old model. But I like it's got an interrogation room in there, and it's cool. I'm, didn't get a lot with it. Didn't even get in the air with it, did we? In this episode.
No, they were in the air.
Where'd they go?
Well, they went to kidnap Skye. They were in the bus for that.
Okay, I didn't see it take off. They were
also like they were around. They were going around.
All right, they're flying around the bus. Okay, I believe you.
Speaking of things 11 times. Fly around, we got Lola. And because this is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., of course, it's an acronym. Do you want to guess what Lola stands for?
Is that Fitz's little drones? What is that?
No, I'm sorry. That is Coulson's car, the 1962 cherry red Chevrolet Corvette.
Yeah, Lola. Oh, of course, it's an acronym. Yeah, I like that Coulson went all Doc Brown at the end. That was really cute. No, Lola stands for long overdue, laterally flying awesome mobile.
Great guess. Right? You got automobile.
Yes.
It's levitating over land automobile.
I got over as well. I just put a do after it.
You're right.
Let me write that down, please. Could you say it one more time?
Levitating over land automobile. And you may have missed this. I know, but Lola's good. You know, it's just like when Ward says it's like somebody really wanted to spell out shield. I mean,
Yeah,
it's the
that's
same kind of
true.
thing.
That's true. Yeah.
But if you notice, this is actually the working model of the prototype seen in Captain America: The First Avenger that Howard Stark was working on. So Lola actually was first seen in the first Avenger, but just like not really working. But we
Neat.
didn't watch
I
that
didn't. Yeah.
this week because Coulson's not in it. I mean, obviously we've both
Right.
seen it many times, but it's been
Sure.
a while.
Cool.
And then you brought up Fitz's little drones. Those are called dwarfs. You know, they're calling
Right.
them like bashful and
Because they're
stuff.
like bashful, sleepy, and yeah.
That also has an acronym. Do you want to guess what they are?
Oh, son of a gun! Dwarfs.
You already got the first one.
Dwarves.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
Well, what was the first word I got?
Drones.
Drones.
Yeah.
With appendages reaching further still.
Nice try.
Is there a V? Is it a V dwarfs? Is it a VES?
No, it's RF. So it's drones wirelessly automated to retrieve forensics.
That's better. Drones.
Yeah.
Not a lot better than what I said.
Wirelessly automated to retrieve forensics.
Okay, because I don't for those watching and listening, I've been told that I'm gonna get quizzed. And
it's not funny if you write it down though.
But I'm gonna study for my pop quiz that I know is coming. I'm gonna get 100%. That's all I'm saying.
One thing I also want to talk about is the effects. Now, it's when the episode came out, some people I know were like disappointed that it wasn't up to the movie caliber, and I don't know what you expect from a network show airing on ABC. And there's definitely there's definitely some stuff in here that could have looked, doesn't look great, but you really have to keep all of that in mind. But there is some stuff that also looks great. And I do want to shout out the visual effects supervisor, Mark Kolpak, who worked on this whole show. And at the beginning, like there was not a lot of work to work with. And as the show goes on, like he does some really impressive stuff. Mark is also, if you guys don't follow him on Twitter, he loves the show. He talks about it a lot. He's just a really cool dude who like put a lot of interesting stuff into this whole series. And like again, there's a lot in the first episode, it's a pilot. There's definitely stuff where you watch now and you're like, that didn't look great. But I don't think that's really an ongoing problem in this show.
Yeah, I thought it looked honestly perfectly fine for what it is, but now my brain and viewing mind has been trained for what a network TV show can do.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
If you hadn't seen some of the like CGI monsters on Buffy, you would not be ready. Practical effects forever. Somebody make me a t-shirt that says practical effects forever, please. So I want to talk a few things about the history of this episode, but before I do, is there anything else about the episode that you want to talk about? Or if anyone real quick in the comments, if there's anything we didn't bring up from the episode that you want me to say something about, let me know.
I've said everything that I wrote down in my notes, and,
cool.
And yeah, I'm complete.
Cool. All right. Well, we did talk about some of the stuff already that I have in my history notes. So, it was October 13th, 2012 was when it was announced that Coulson would be coming back. I think it was at New York Comic-Con, which is one of my favorite cons next month. And the creators at the con, they acknowledged that it was the fans. They started filming. This construction of the sets happened on December 2012. They were filming it under the name S.H.I.E.L.D. Makes sense that they didn't keep that name because that was already the name of a television show. And they officially went into production on January 22nd, 2013. And I would like to point out that some additional filming took place in Paris on February 14th and 15th. February 15th was my 23rd birthday, so they were filming some stuff while I was celebrating my 23rd birthday.
Happy birthday, Jamie.
Oh, yeah. It's like I love to talk about that. A really good episode of Cheers aired the day that I was born. Just another fun fact, Tony and I are slowly also working through my favorite sitcom, which is Cheers. I've made Tony watch a lot of TV in the time that we've been together.
It's been good. It's been a good education. It was one I sorely needed.
Yes, agreed. The pilot was watched by 12.12 million viewers. That was the highest ratings received by a first episode of a show, a drama series, since 2009. So that was
No
really
way.
good. It did some good numbers. People tuned in. I tuned in. It's wild because like this 22 episode shows like this just aren't as common. They're not as now we have these 13 episodes, really expensive, high budget streaming shows. And I've been saying this for the last 3 years. I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is probably the last I'll ever love. That's a long form 22 episode show. And that's why I'm holding on to it for as long as I can and keeping it in for the next 7 years. Let's see. Oh, one funny little tidbit was that the name Rising Tide was actually the name of a real hacktivist group. And so the episode received a little backlash from them for using their name.
Make yourself more public, actual real Rising Tide.
Exactly. And finally, the episode was nominated for a couple awards at some, it wasn't getting any Emmy awards, but the episode received a nomination for Outstanding Visual Effects in a Broadcast Program at the 12th Visual Effects Society Awards. Do you want to guess what it lost to? It is something you've seen.
Yeah.
It lost to the season 3 premiere of Game of Thrones, which fair. I don't like that. They should not be in the same category.
They should be hanging out together. This is kind of what I was saying at the beginning. This is a different beast. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then it was nominated for Best Sound Editing, Short Form Music at the 61st Golden Reel Awards. And I'll just tell you what that lost to. It was another Game of Thrones episode. It actually lost to The Reigns of Castamere. And for those of you who don't know, that's the Red Wedding. So it's fair.
Those
Can't
were
really
some pretty
argue
intense
that
pregnant baby stab sounds. I do remember pretty vividly. Yeah.
Whoo, sure were. All right, so we're going a little long today because we had so much to discuss. In the future, we hope to clock it at an hour, but we don't have anywhere to be, so we're gonna. Hopefully, you guys don't mind that we're running a little over because I do have some questions for Tony. First of all, your first quiz question, we put a poll on our Instagram to see if you would know this or how long it would take you to know. Do you know what SHIELD stands for?
Yeah, Strategic Homeland Intervention and Enforcement Logistics Division.
All right.
There was an and in there. There was an and in there that didn't belong.
You don't worry about the and. That's right. Loosey goosey. I would like to give you a real round of applause. By the time the first episode came out, I did not know what that stood for. It took me a long time to remember it. So I am impressed. Everyone give him a shout out. Here's something that I want to know, and I want to know, what do you already know about the future? Because you live with me. And there was a time where we didn't know we were doing this podcast, and sometimes we would watch a show and I would say, that actor, they're going to show up on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. one day, but you also don't have the best memory about that kind of thing. So
no, I do not.
Do you remember anything that's going to happen or anyone that's going to show up?
I mean, Jamie, you have a framed picture on your dresser of you hanging out with the cast of the final season of Angel, and there is a very big spoilery character featured in that picture that I never noticed.
It's literally in our bedroom.
Literally in our bed. I walk by it every day. And so, no, I don't but think about it. How many times have we been watching anything and you pointed at the screen and say, guess what show they're in? And I know it's one of three. It's good Buffy, Angel, or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And so and then sometimes we would be watching Angel or Buffy and you would say, remember, I told you they were going to be in this. And I'm like, I don't remember that, but how nice. So good. No, I'm glad. I do. The only thing I know is that I already know because we're talking about doing Patreon, and that our first Patreon episode is going to be Thor: The Dark World. So I think I know, and maybe has seen some imagery of some Dark Elves business. And I also know about Ghost Rider because when Ghost Rider, that might have honestly been what prompted me to try again, because I'm a big Ghost Rider fan. I read the comics. By the way, I'm a comic guy. I read a lot of Marvel growing up, less so these days, but I've got it in my system. So I might have tried to. I think I know Ghost Rider's in it, but I don't think I really know anything else.
It's funny to our audience. So sorry for the first timers that just got spoiled that Ghost Rider was in it. We're doing our best because I did ask the question.
That's literally all I know. Sorry.
And no, that's good.
It can't happen. It literally can't happen again.
you just met Ghost Rider. So
Ghost Rider.
we participated in a lip sync battle that we won.
We did win.
At the UCB Theater, and in the show before us, Gabriel Luna was doing a show. So I went up and said hi to him because I moderated the Shield 100th panel. So we'd met before. And, I said hi. I actually told him I was doing this podcast. Did not invite him on because he's on strike. Hopefully, eventually, we'll talk about that in a bit. But anyway, I introduced him to Tony. So Tony has met Ghost Rider.
I met Ghost Rider. And
I'm probably in 4 years. Yeah.
I'm
in 4
really
years,
stoked
you can
about
decide
that.
if you like him,
I just met like a nice good-looking guy. I said, hey man, what's up? Nice to meet you. You seem nice. You were fun. I saw a little bit of your show on the monitor. That was a fun, wild story you told. And then in 4 years, I'm gonna be like, that was fucking Ghost Rider. Are you kidding me?
Okay. So my next question: some people in the comments were really excited when you brought up ships, because this is a big shipping fandom. There are like some hardcore ships, but it's in a first episode, it's hard to say. Maybe none of these people even have a romance in the future. What do I know? I don't know. But is there anyone that you instinctively are like, these guys?
The show wants me to think that Ward and Skye are gonna be a thing, and you know what? They can have each other. That's fine. they pair of buttholes. I think they'd be great. No. I don't I don't know. There's not a lot. There's like at one point, because I knew you were going to ask me this. So as I was watching it, I was in my head. I was like, all right, any ships here? And then I was like, are Fitzsimmons brother and sister?
No.
Okay. No. But they give off
their last names are Fitz and Simmons. They're not related.
For all I know, their last names are Fitzsimmons, and they split them up because I thought it would be cool. But I think that they should not be shipped because they seem like they're related. And so that's like one thing I'm like, I don't want to ship them right now because I feel like that's brother and sistery, and it's not. This isn't Game of Thrones, so I wasn't. But no, I can tell there's some Ward and Skye stuff going on because they're both so contentious and difficult. But beyond that, I got nothing.
All right. Okay. Fair. And I have one more question for you. One final question. You have met the main 6 characters.
Yeah.
How many of the 6? You don't even have to name them if you don't want. But of 6 main characters right now, how many do you think will make it to the series finale?
Let's see. I mean, just honestly, that question leads me to believe that a fairly significant amount won't. But I would say,
well, you watch Buffy and Angel, so you know that people come and go.
People die, and also just don't like show up again.
So you're saying 3?
I say 3 or 4 of them will make it to the final season or finale. Was the question?
The series finale, yeah.
Yeah, I think 3 or 4. That's my put a log on that. 3 or 4.
Cool. All right, 3 or 4. Maria, book it.
Database.
Maria's in charge of remembering things.
Writing this down, yeah.
All right. So, real quick before we boot Tony and talk some spoilers, I do want to say a few things about this podcast. And I've said it a couple times already, but I just want to reiterate that we want to get good guests on the show in terms of actors, writers, people involved in the show. And I because of my history with the show, I feel good about that chance happening. I've worked with everyone in the cast before, but no promises, no guarantees. Right now we are standing in solidarity with the strike, so we are not even reaching out to anybody. So of course we'd love to do that, and hope in 7 years hopefully we get a really big audience and it'll be easy. Maybe people will want to come to us eventually. So those are the goals. And again, I feel really good about it. It's just right now we can't even really think about it. But we do have our first 6 guests locked and loaded. There were a few mega fans of the series, a few novices like Tony, but they're all really awesome, fun, cool people that I'm excited for you guys to meet. Another thing, I said this already about tagging spoilers. You guys have been great about it in the comments. Just keep that in mind for Instagram to do the same thing as well. To do that in comments. For example, I shared a picture of my tattoo. That's a season 6 tattoo. So I just wrote season 6 spoilers in the as the caption. Like Tony's obviously seen all my tattoos, so like I can't hide it, you know. Spoiler, we live together.
What? It's
we
not
also
like we don't have sex or anything. We just live together. That's the only reason I would.
Separate rooms. No. This is a podcast about that we're a couple.
Yeah.
Yes.
Love in the time of Hydra.
Yes, that's all in the title. And we also have some fun segment ideas for the future that I'm really excited about. So I used to do stand-up, and in my stand-up, I would write and read erotic fan fiction. And I'd like to bring that back for the show, especially because my one and only criticism of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is that it's not queer. There are a couple minor queer characters, but it never gets queer enough for me. And that's my biggest problem with this show. So like, I want to start writing and reading some queer fanfic, and also eventually I hope that maybe some fans can submit some queer. Emily, that's kind of a spoiler. It is kind of a spoiler, but like Tony knows that already. It doesn't get queer, unfortunately. So like I'm hoping that maybe eventually I'll read some. We can read some of yours that you submit. It doesn't have to be queer, but like I prefer it.
I love the idea of you sifting through piles upon piles of erotic fan fiction, like you're picking the Nobel Prize winner. Like this is going on the air tomorrow.
It doesn't have to be erotic, but I'm more likely to pick it.
It should be
if
erotic
it's sexy
and queer. If you want Jamie to read it,
if you want me to like it, it's gonna be
either make it queer or make one of the mainstay Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. characters a vampire, or better still, a queer vampire, and that shit is getting read on the podcast.
There it is. We also have some ideas for games. We might do some drinking game episodes because Sunday's my Friday, my weekend's starting. And
I don't have that same privilege, but I will abide as well.
Yes. And one other thing that I want to mention before I forget is that I know some of you know that I co-host another podcast, but I cannot bring up that podcast on this show, and I cannot bring up this podcast on that show. It's like legal work reasons. So if you get in the comments of either show and mention one or the other, I have to ignore you. Don't take it personally. It's not that I don't want to. It's just keeping myself safe. I want to continue to do both things, and the only way I can do that is by keeping them 100% separate. And so that's all I am going to say about that. But I will say that very separate from that, has nothing to do with what I just say. My dear friend, who I know through other reasons, Jenna Anderson, will be one of our first guests. So that's going to be very exciting, but not next week. Next week, we have our first ever guest is going to be my best friend, Jake Farrington. He's the host of the Gimme That D podcast. It's a Disney Channel podcast. So Jake is not a S.H.I.E.L.D. fan, but he came with me to the 100th anniversary panel. So he was there. He's met the cast. So next week we're probably going to dive and talk about my experience with that panel without giving away spoilers. So I'm really excited to have Jake Farrington on next week.
I really hope he sticks with it. I really hope we keep having him on and keep having a guest who's as fun and charismatic as Jake, who's watching this show for the first time with me. That would be lovely.
Yes. I also, people are now talking about like queer characters, and I do agree that in my headcanon, Skye is bi. There's no doubt in my mind that Skye is bi. They should have explored that, and they didn't. But what can you do? But yes, in my headcanon, 100%. And it's kind of maybe it's real canon. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. All right, Tony, we're about to kick you out of the show so we can talk some full spoilers.
That's fine.
And so anybody else who is watching for the first time, you should leave with Tony. There's going to be no interesting information beyond spoilers, so don't worry. Clock the time, so once you watch it, the whole show, you can come back and listen. But for now, Tony, say your goodbyes.
Well, thank you everybody who jumped on here and is listening, whether you jumped in live or watching it. But we got some people we got to thank, and that is Stephanie at Eclectic Muses on socials for doing our artwork. Ryan Mira of Yellow Pills. You can find him at Yellow Pills Music on Insta. and our producer Maria. Oh, that I should say, Ryan Mira did our theme song. Very awesome. Man, he did it, and boy, he did it fast. What a boss. And of course, producer Maria. Producer Maria, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yay.
So
And I wish you guys a very good remainder of your podcast, and I'll see you next week.
All right, bye, Tony.
Bye. Earbuds out.
I thought he'd never leave. All right. So normally, Maria, are you gonna? So you're only seen 6 episodes. So
so I can't talk too in depth about anything,
Mhm.
but I'm here and I don't mind spoilers. I kind of like to know what to expect.
Great. There are just a few things that I want to touch on. This segment will be a little longer, I think, in the future, but right now we're already 10 minutes over what we wanted to do. Although I think we did pretty good in terms of timing.
Getting through everything.
So I just want to first of all say thank you for those sticking around. Full spoilers for the whole series. We are talking full spoilers right now. It is so hard to say Skye. To remember, because obviously I'm trying not to yell because Tony is still in this place and I'm a loud talker, but I'm sure he went far away. He's probably smoking. We all know her as Daisy now. Like, she becomes Daisy. We learn her name in season 2, and then as start of season 3, she starts going by Daisy. So like I'm so worried I'm gonna slip up and say Daisy, but so far we did good. Maria, do you know this? Do you know about Skye?
Yeah, I knew this.
Okay.
I know some things because I had a lot of friends who watched it and they would tell me about it. Plus, I was very heavy on Tumblr during this time, so you just can't avoid spoilers on Tumblr unless you really try.
Of course. I really love his instinct about Ward, but he has no idea that Ward is Hydra. He just has no idea. And that's really fun. Now the big thing, he's going to come around on Fitzsimmons, because I think a lot of people felt that way about them in the beginning, that they do have brother sister energy, because that kind of is how they started. But I know for a fact he's going to absolutely eventually love them. I would be shocked if he never got on board the Fitzsimmons train. I'm surprised he didn't clock Felinda, because even in that first interaction, they have chemistry. But we'll see. But I know the comments were freaking out when Tony was like, "Could Coulson be a robot?" Because in season 7, I'm sorry, in the final season, he's an LMD. He literally becomes a robot because
that's one of the things That's one of the things that I knew. I remember the internet people have a lot of opinions about that.
And then in the comments, Emily, she were talking a lot about WandaVision comparisons, and WandaVision is WandaVision and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. are my 2 favorite things. And it is true that there's some similar stuff going on, but that I to me that's such a positive. I love it, especially when we get to the alternate universe time travel business at the end. I can't believe 7 years until Tony sees Deke Squad, because he's seen Chopping Mall, the movie that episode's based on, and I want to watch it so bad. I'm just gonna be so impatient, because with Buffy and Angel we did that over the course of a year. We didn't, spread it out like this. So, and someone's asking me how Deke is my favorite character. I just love him so much. He's just a goofball. He's adorable. He's so cute. He's so funny. I just think he really brings a refresher for me into this dynamic. And as soon as he showed up, he was instantly my favorite character. Oh my God. Tony saying that Skye is so fucking annoying was so funny, because I didn't like Skye in the beginning either, but I grew to really love Daisy. So I think he's going to come around on her in a big way. But it's going to be a while. I don't think we're liking Skye in the first season for Tony. He called Ward a chode. That's hilarious. He's going to be surprised, I think, that of these 6, 5 of them make it to the end. Only one of them doesn't. And I think he's going to be really surprised by that. One big thing that he is going to freak out about is Bill Paxton and Kyle MacLachlan. Bill Paxton is coming this season, so I'm really excited to see his reaction to Bill Paxton. Those are kind of my big things for now. There wasn't a lot. He did say some funny stuff that it was especially hard for me not to react to Fitzsimmons, because I just love them so deeply. Maria, any thoughts before we say goodbye?
No, I'm really loving it. I'm having a great time. I think it's this beautiful marrying of like almost a procedural and the Marvel universe, which
Mhm.
give me a
Yeah.
procedural any day of the week and I love it.
Absolutely. Thank you guys again for all tuning in. This has been so much fun. I can't believe I really like my goal is to really make this happen in terms of 7 years because talking about Agents of Shield is like my favorite thing. And next week again, tune in for Jake Farrington where we're going to talk about a little bit about when I moderated the Shield 100 panel because Jake was there. Episode 2. I also want to say that I hate when people say that this show doesn't get good until episode 17. This show is there. I think there are 4 not good episodes. And aside from then, um, I think there's so many good ones, especially episode 6. I'm really excited for that. When Tony leaves the room, you do not have to keep tagging your spoilers questions in the chat. Just for when he's around, because hopefully other newcomers are already gone. So I'm going to leave you on this. Follow us on all the platforms. You already know where you are now. Those are in the live chat. But if you are listening just to the podcast form, hopefully you're on Spotify or Apple. Please leave us a 5-star review. That would be really helpful. If you leave us a 5-star review and ask us a question, we'll answer it. Follow us. Right. That seems fair to say. Follow us on Instagram, and we also have a Twitter at LitoPod, LITTOH. If you're talking about the show, use the hashtag Lito, hashtag LTLATTOH. Subscribe, all that good stuff. This is my first time hosting a podcast by myself where I don't just show up and talk. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you again so much for everything. I'm like really stoked, and we will see you next week. Same time, same place.
All right. Bye, guys.